Alrighty, I see a few folks starting to pile on in here. Please excuse the background noise. Have some folks cleaning out the hallway, so you hear some vacuuming for a moment with me there. But happy Friday to you all. As always, this is done as a open forum live stream. My name is Chris Varley, support member here with Trade Ideas. So happy Friday to you all, and please again, open forum, so make sure you get some questions in here for me. I'll wait a moment to see how many others are going to join us before I get rolling on anything else. But as always, I prefer to let your folks' questions drive the content of this. So don't be shy, get those in here. If you have any questions, get them in right away. I'll get to those right away. If not, I'm going to wait a moment before I move on to other things and try to keep this as informative and entertaining as possible. Really, this is more meant to be educational than entertaining, but I also don't want to bore anybody to death if I can help it. So again, don't be shy and get some questions in here for me. I'm going to give it another moment or so before I just kind of get rolling right on it. So like I mentioned before, please get those questions in. Excellent, Midway. Is there a limit to how many stocks can show up on a top list? Yes, there is. 1,000 is the max, but I'd like to showcase something here and keep these things in mind. So think of think of the information going back and forth that is coming through a fire hose. So that's a lot of water through, right? A lot of information would come through that in that regard. However, if we start trying to shove a watermelon through a fire hose, we're going to run into some problems, right? It's just not realistic. That's not how that works. So while, having 1,000 stocks show on one scan at one time is great, realistically, there is not a human being on earth that could go through 1,000 stocks on a scan and make a decision in any kind of short time period or anything like that. So please keep that in mind, all right? To increase or decrease how many stocks show on a top list at once, we would right click, go to time frame and look for set record count. And we could set the record count in here. I recommend keeping this as low as possible, right? Because if you want to be running multiple scans with multiple filters and alerts and columns and data like that shown, all that takes bandwidth, right? And so, the more columns that you have up here that have to display data and update and refresh, that takes resources, right? There's no set template saying, if you have X amount of top lists, you're going to run into problems, or X amount of alert windows, or X amount of columns. It's going to depend on many things: your machine, your ISP, your geographic location, internet traffic, what internet settings that you have. Everybody, all the ISP companies now, are you at 100 Mbps or 300 or 1,000, whatever they're offering, different tiers and different pricing and things like that. So now, let's just say that you've got a scan and these all default to be 100. I have this personally set to 75, but all top lists set to default to be 100. Let's just say, for example, you have 500 stocks that could show on this scan, but you've got the record count at 100. Well, the scan has to decide what 100 stocks to pull on there, right? And that 100 stocks, bear with me here, folks. I forgot to turn off my notifications. We don't want any interruptions. So let's just say that we've got 500 stocks that could possibly show on a scan. We're limiting it to show only the top 100. That top 100 comes from what we call a server sort. So if we right click and go to configure and we go to sort, we'll see what we're sorting on. For example, this scan right now is server sorting on change from close. So the top stocks right now, with the biggest on top being up from the close, those would be the top ones to populate, and anything that isn't in that top 100, that gets left off the scan. After that, we have the display sort here, which I also happen to be on change from close % on that as well. And we can change the display sort by double clicking on any column, and we can double click it so it's, the biggest at the top, or the biggest gain at the top, or the smallest gain at the top, like that. So that's how that can all be done. double click through several times to get those different options like that. So again, I just, I highly recommend to folks, be realistic about things, right? On what you're trying to accomplish here and how much data you're trying to have come in and all those things like that. So would it be possible to see every stock with a price of more than $2 and an average volume of at least 500,000 per day? I doubt it, because it's probably more than 1,000 stocks that would meet that. So no, I would, but I don't know how many stocks and what daily average are we looking at? Because you got to pick a daily average, right? So which daily average? Let's look. So are we going 5-day, 10-day, or 3-month? Those are the 3 daily averages that we have. And I don't know those numbers off the top of my head, how many stocks those would be, but the max would be 1,000. And again, I would say, be realistic about this. How many of these charts can you click through and get through, like that. So, yeah. So good question. I know that not always my answers are the most well received, in the sense that people want to see everything. No, it does not tell you how many stocks could meet the scan. No way to know how many stocks would meet the scan. Sorry. So keep the questions coming. Don't be shy, folks. Come one, come all with the questions, right? Yep, OddsMaker will work with the symbols list. So if you take an alert window, let's bring over an alert window, and if you were to go to symbols list and attach it to any one of these lists, whether it's your own personal list or one of these, and then you ran the back test on it, only stocks on that list would be considered in the back test. So yep, 100%. One thing to note is that if you run a back test, you're never running a back test for today. It's for yesterday and the 60 some odd days beyond that, however you decide to do that. And the reason you can't back test for today is because today is still happening, and we have to take in and ingest all that data, push it through our overnight process. Very complicated process. You have to consider that we've got over 500 data points in here, right? And all these have to come through and be digested and pushed through the overnight process in order to have the back tester going. And that's also, people often ask, why are we limited in certain things with data? And it's because we have this many data points that can be back tested on in real time. I haven't come across a limit on symbol lists. Again, I'd ask people to be realistic. There's 8,000 symbols in the stock market. I mean, if you're using a symbols list and putting 7,000 symbols on it, I just, I don't understand the point of that. If you're leaving off 1,000 symbols, for example. Now that 8,000 symbols includes ETFs and ETNs and, the pinks and the OTCs and all those things like that. But I'd ask people again, if you're just looking to test system limits, don't, you're going to find them and then break something. But, if you had 500 stocks on a symbols list, I don't think that that's unreasonable. I think that I've seen people with that many and not have any problems. I would also say this too. If you create symbols lists, make a backup document of them, whether you use a Google Doc or Sheet or Microsoft Word or Excel, whatever you want to use. make a backup of those lists somewhere, just because I've seen people come through here and, we go to tools, symbols list, and I've seen them click and then delete the list, and then that was it. And, wasn't good. Wasn't good, to say the least. And, they come in yelling at us and everything, and, we're sorry. That's just the way it goes sometimes. So, I would just highly recommend having a backup of that list somewhere. There is do you want to delete the selected list function, but somehow people seem to still delete it and then yell at us, even though there's a failsafe there to stop you from doing that. So yeah, best to have that backup. And for the record, I am a huge fan of symbols lists personally. I think it's a great way to either exclude or include things into a stock or get a narrow scope of things. Oftentimes for newer traders anyways, and I have no idea where anybody in the stream stands in their trading journey, but I found for myself when I was a newer trader, my biggest issue was trying to keep up with too many alerts and bells and whistles and things coming through. And some early successes that I had in my trading. When I say early successes, I mean my first successes. It was not early on in my trading. It was a long ways into the journey. Came because I started narrowing things down to symbols lists of stocks that were meeting criteria coming into days and things like that. So having a narrowed view, but not just a random narrow view, a narrow view of what you're looking for based on things you want to see can be very beneficial. Manual says charting style is not available in the web version of Trade Ideas Pro. That's correct. There are no customizations in the web version. You just get candlestick charting. That's it. What you would see here on my charts right here, that's it. There's no other customizations to be done. Inside the download software here, if we go to chart style, there's a number of things we can do with candlesticks, line, bar, area, high, low, close, open, high, low, close. Some different colorings that can go on. And there's compare charts as well that can be done. None of that exists in the web version. All you have is candlesticks. That's it. Keep them coming too, folks. Thank you for the questions. I appreciate that. I like this so much better when we're getting questions in here and it's not just me randomly talking stocks and charts. So don't be shy. Keep the questions coming midway. And anybody else that's out there that has questions, please get them in here, right? This is for everybody. Are there TradeWave signals available loosely in the web version of Trade Ideas Pro? Yes and no. On the desktop version, or on the desktop web, no. On what we call our market dashboard on the web, yes. So if we were to come to our homepage here and you go to My Trade Ideas, this is what we call our dashboard, which is a web version. And this is, mobile friendly. You can have the TradeWave enabled on this here. But on the desktop version, you cannot. And you can't enable this if you're on delayed data here. I think you can, if you swap to live, you can enable it and then go back to delayed. And I think it'll stay enabled. Let me check that. So here's the wave coming in. It's populating. There we go. So there's the last buy signal that's there. If I go back to delayed data, I want to say that stays, but don't quote me on that. Yep, it stays on there like that. So that'd be a way to get around that if you wanted, because you can't have live data in two places at once. and it's an exchange regulation, not by our own design. We designed obviously to follow along with the regulations of the exchanges, but it's one login per account per area. That's it. No, the plans are to actually turn this dashboard into the desktop version completely. And what you know as the web desktop will eventually go away completely because it'll be replaced by the dashboard, which will have all the bells and whistles of the download. But we're a ways off of that. However, that is the main focus of the development team, is that. So there are folks internally that believe that we may be able to get pretty close to that by the end of 2025. I am not a developer, so I have no idea what goes into any of that. I do sit in many of the developmental meetings, listen to updates and things of that nature, but I couldn't possibly tell you if it's going to happen in this coming calendar year or longer. And changing, show me how to make my own sectors list, for example, track the airlines. Yeah, absolutely, Scott. So this is what I would do for that. First thing I would do is come to, sorry, I got to reconnect here because I want live data elsewhere. Give me a second here. I need to close some things because my PC just seems not to be able to handle so much stuff all at once anymore. All right. So tools, symbols lists, and we'll call it, create new list, and we'll call it airlines. And we'll press OK. And then it's alphabetical, so we got to find it. There we go. Airlines. And so I'll just put jets for fun because I know that's the airline ETF. We'll put UAL, and we'll put DAL, and we'll put ULCC all on there. And we're going to press OK. And so those are there. And I would do refresh from server after doing that. Now I would go new, topless. And then I would make sure the top list is completely blank. So in the Windows specific filters, make sure there's no filters being used here. That's if you want to see all those stocks. And then if you want to see specific columns displayed, you can come to the search out the column you want, select it, and then press show column. And you can also look at what's there by default and get rid of things you don't want to see if that's the way you want it to be. Then we can come to the summary tab here, and we can call it airline tracker, and we'll press OK. And at first, this is just going to show everything basically because there's no filters here whatsoever. It's going to try to show everything. We'll right click, come to the configure. We will go to symbols list. We'll go add existing list, and we're going to look for airlines. There we go, airlines. It says personal in brackets because we created it. Double click that, put a check mark in it, and make sure the drop down menu there says only the following lists. We'll press OK. And bang, there we go. Those items are right there for us. And so we can see those all just like that. And that's essentially what I did on this here, my ETF list. This is, looking at sector ETFs. We come to the configure here. And we go to Windows specific filters. There's nothing in there. Symbols list, sector analysis, personal. I also added this list that I use for ETFs if anybody ever wants to do this as, I think it's user's guide list or something like that. Sector analysis user's guide. So you have access to that list that I actually use there if anybody ever wants to do that. So let me know if that makes sense, Scott, if you need me to go back over anything. And of course, everybody and anybody, make sure you get your questions in for me, right? Don't be shy. Don't be shy. That is the purpose of these. Make sure you folks are getting the education you are in need of to leverage the software in the best way possible. Yeah, you can save it to the cloud, save it to your layout, however you want to do that, like that, right? So we can right click anything and select save or share to cloud, and then it'll be here. If we go file, load from cloud, it'll be there. If you want it just as part of your layout, your default layout, save layout, and then, look for default layout here, select it and save. That default _ layout, all capitals like that, will be the layout that opens every time you open Trade Ideas. You can create other layouts too. We've seen, people create specific layouts for pre-market, post-market. I've seen people that have layouts that they run from, let's say, market open till 11 p.m. Eastern, and then from 11 p.m. Eastern to 2, they run a different layout, and then from 2 to the close, they run another layout. So a lot of options that you can do there. And I highly recommend considering these things, especially if you have a large layout or a large set of scans you want to have, but they don't apply at all times of the day. All right, sounds good. Sounds good. And yeah, this will, later on the day, it'll render and post on YouTube under the live section of our YouTube channel, and so you can skip around in there as well. But yeah, never hesitate to give us an email. And for those that don't know, info@trade-ideas.com. That's not trader. Sorry. Pardon me. So info@trade-ideas.com, not trader. I apologize. Can I remove that? Delete comment. Yes. Perfect. Info@trade-ideas.com. That's another way to always get to us for support. Chris just purchased and wanted to know how to find the TradeWave charts. Yeah, so Chris, what you're going to want to do is make sure you're on our latest beta version of the software, and you'll know that if you see this menu bar that I've got here, let me widen it up a little bit too so we can see what we're looking at, because I know things get jumbled. Go to Help and look for About, and you want to make sure you're on 5.6.104. If you're on anything other than that, you won't get the TradeWave. Download, copy. All right, so on our download page here, this is for Chris Cotton again, make sure you select the beta. It'll be on the right side. There's 2 options. It'll be like Trade Ideas Pro, and that's our production version. You want the beta version. Download and install that. Once you have done that, then you're going to, nope, don't close Trade Ideas. I pressed the wrong thing. Bear with me. Sorry, folks. I closed Trade Ideas by accident. Sorry. Loading right back up. Give me a second. But on the charts, if you right click your chart, at the bottom of it, you will see you'll see it says browser interface. Just make sure there's a check mark in the browser interface. And then in the top right corner of the charts, you will see an FX. Sorry, top left corner. You'll see an FX, and just go ahead and click on that FX, and you'll see the TradeWave there. Just bear with me while my system's loading, and I'm gonna demonstrate that. And then I have a video for you as well that I'm gonna share, and you can you look at that leisure at your that video at your leisure as well. So bear with me. Get my tree maps going here. All right. So if I right click here in the chart, you'll see browser interface has got a check mark next to it. And then this is the FX that I'm talking about up here in that corner. You go ahead and click on that, select TradeWave, and you get the TradeWave just like that. Get my drawing tool out. There are some settings you have that you can use and do in here. So if you go to FX and you click on the 3 little bars there next to the TradeWave with the dots, if you click on that, you'll see those settings pop up for you. If I click on it properly, there we go. And you can, adjust any of these settings. So, it's set up that if you want to see more or less buy or sell flags, the type of cloud, thickness of it, or I should say opacity of it, things of that nature. And of course, if you mess anything up or you want to revert, bang, there is the revert option. That's right there at the bottom as well for you. And then let me get you that video. Let's see, playlists. Let's scroll down. TradeWave, copy link address. And so this is a video. Just go ahead and bookmark that and, check that out at your own leisure. There are 3 TradeWave scans that were recently added. They weren't around when I did that video, so I'm going to make an updated video one of these days here. But if you go to new on the menu bar, pull that menu bar back out, new Market Explorer window. And if you right click and go select strategy, you'll see TradeWave down here. We've got a daily buy, a weekly buy, and a 5-minute buy on those here. And so, it's a scan that's set up. It's got some different parameters. There's no customization of the scan. You get what you get out of it. And those will show you some buy signals. Of course, the sell signal doesn't happen until real time. So there's no way to predict when a sell signal will happen because it's based on moving averages, and there's no way to predict what a moving average will do. It does what it does based on price and how fast that price moves, of course. And then let's see. Okay, covered Scott, and of course, Scott, if you have anything else, don't be shy. Get those in here for me. We're covering Chris, and then Midway. Just going through this. Throw this out there. I'm not at all a fan of Scope dashboard interface. It seems slow, clunkier, and more cluttered and stuff. I will pass that feedback along. I will say that mostly we get nonstop, please make the dashboard the whole thing. In fact, this is the first time I ever heard anybody not like the dashboard. I personally don't use it. I like to download software myself, but I'm generally in the minority of that. I find that most other people seem to like the dashboard. But, 99% of the people that come into the software find it too complex for them to download software. And almost 100% of those people that find it too complicated don't want to put any effort into learning anything. So the dashboard is, it's meant to be just clicking around without much, customizations in it for those folks that really have no intention of learning anything. So let me bring the dashboard over again, so it's, it's just stuff is displayed and, by simply clicking on momentum waves, here we are, we're in something. There's no right clicking and configuring and setting prices and all those things like that. It's an unfortunate product of the stock market, but for whatever reason, while people realize, anybody on the street would tell you that the stock market is extremely tough to make any sort of living in. All those same people also think that there's secret, easy ways to do any of it, or apparently so. That rock and hard place that we're in. However, Midway, I will pass that along to the decision makers that are around here. And again, folks, don't be shy. Please, anybody with any questions at all, get those in here for me, right? Open forum. I'm here for about another half an hour. And for those that don't know or aren't migrating over from the Traders Room, when we do this Q&A for an hour each day, noon Eastern to 1 Eastern, but there is Barry who runs a trading room all day long. And while it's not a open forum necessarily like this, Barry will answer any questions that you have. Barry doesn't do much as far as, back testing and things like that. Barry's a lot more trader focused, but Barry has a very good concept on any kind of scan building, chart functions, software functions overall in general. Most of any of the basic stuff, without any question, Barry's beyond an expert on. And then when it comes to, even with backtesting, Barry knows how to backtest. He just doesn't do it. It's not part of his trading style. He's got his scans. He's got a number of scans. He rotates those scans based on when we're in and out of earnings season and things like that. And, his scans are quite all right, if I may say so. Like a company is planning to replace everything with dashboard. I think that'd be a huge mistake. Yeah, like I said, I'll pass this along. I support what they give me to support, essentially. I would prefer, I don't think the download's going to disappear. I just think that eventually, it'll migrate, or, maybe in 20 years it disappears from now. But it's not like we're going to move everything to the dashboard and just say, all right, everybody get off the download now. That I know will not be happening. The news tab. Yeah, you could break it out. Hold on, I think so. Wait, duplicate. Can it be broken out? No, you're right. Sorry. What you can do is, you can move it around so the news tab is kind of its own window itself within the window. But no, it can't be broken out. You're going to have these other items in here no matter what. But you could break it down like that, of course. You could even change the sizing of these things too. So you can, make the news tab bigger or smaller, and the profile bigger or smaller. So I'd say, those would be your workarounds there, Sergio. There's other ways to do this too. If I bring this back in like that, I could do this. You just have the news that's here like this. You can't get rid of these other tabs. You also do the news from below. You see how we've got this tool, so I can put it however I want it displayed. You could do it this way too, up and down. And then the same thing, you could squash this up and have the news more prolific like that. And again, don't be shy. Get those questions in. Please, please, please. But all right, what else do we got going on? Okay, so recently, externally linked TI TWS, and I was noticing that you had Reuters listed as a news source to externally linked to us. External linking was created before we had charts. The real function of external linking was this: we did not have charts. I want to say charts didn't come until about 10 years ago, and the software's been around since 2001. I want to say 2014. Don't quote me on that. It could be 13, it could be 15, right? That was the original reason for external linking, was so that when you could click on, when you clicked on a symbol in any of the scans, it sent it to your broker's charts. And so, whatever were popular things at that time, those were the ones that went into the whole external linking thought process there. What we found is number one, nobody wanted to work with us, right? So we went to, if you come in here to all these rules, let's go to edit link, and then let's look at these rules. If you come into all these rules, we reached out to all these individual companies and said, hey, we're so-and-so, and we do these things, and we'd love to partner with you. And they said, no. That was it. So we had to figure out a way to do this on our own, and we created specific rules to what were some of the more popular things that were being used back then. But what we found is that these companies make lots of updates all the time on their end, and they're, of course, not going to let us know they're doing it because they're not partnered with us. And so these links would break, and then we try to fix them, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, we're just going to sit here fixing links nonstop. We're never going to be able to do anything else with the software, support it whatsoever. And we were able to get it so that there's a few rules that still work. I believe TrendSpider still works, and I believe Interactive Broker still works. I think Wealth Chart still works, and Stock Charts still work. And that was it. We kind of created the link afterwards or modified the link so that it basically works with everything with no specific rule. If it doesn't, I suggest to people always use the alternative method. Try that. Sometimes you got to do beginnings cut off, maybe a combination of theirs. And sometimes some of these links will work with other stuff. I think, for example, Webull, you can either use TradingView or TrendSpider as a rule that'll work with Webull. I haven't tested it in a while, but I know it'll work, for example. But what we can't control is that these softwares do their own thing, right? They're always making updates and innovations on their end, and they're not accounting for anybody else whatsoever. So kind of sucks that linking is a one-sided effort on our part, but it is what it is. So the linking only works for downloads. It does not work for web pages. You can try it, but it's unlikely to work with any web pages for the linking. What you could use in place of that is a send to option. So if we right click a chart and we go to send to, and we go to web, you can default it to be some different things up in here like that. Let me get you the user's guide section on that. And then you can leave this up and have it linked like that. So, for example, as you click through things, you can have it update like that. But let me find that section of the user's guide. User's guide, send it to. There we go. So, you bookmark that at your leisure and go over it when you're ready. All righty. Wow. ARTW. That thing is on the move today, huh? Not very many shares traded in it, though, let's be honest. Just noticing that there. So, all right. Great session so far, folks. Great session. Please keep it coming. Keep it coming. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Oh, sorry. I just saw that midway. My apologies. I see you posted it earlier. My bad. I was going to go back through. For Holly trades, are they usually stocks very much in play that day with a lot of relative volume? Are they more or less based on specific technical patterns? No. So a lot of what Holly does is based on relative volume, but this actually is great that I put up a RTW, because look at the relative volume here. It's 50, right? Things only traded 600,000 shares on the day today. So you have to keep that in mind about relative volume, and that can happen with some of the Holly alerts too. The thing could have a 75 relative volume and it'll have only traded 300,000 shares, after an hour the market's open or something like that. So, you have to keep in mind relative volume is relative to what it normally does. But that's, a big component of what Holly does with her strategies. There is, let me find you the web page here for it, a list of Holly strategies and an overview of what they're doing. Bear with me while I look for this link. Strategies. Now, I don't see some of these get fired very often, to be honest, anymore. But what happens is Holly started off with all these base strategies. And then every night, every one of those base strategies gets tested something like 10, back tested and optimized something like 10,000 times. And then the next day, the ones that back test and optimize the best come and are deployed. And if any stocks meet the criteria of that scan or set of scans, you get the alert and the suggested stop with them. There's one note to make. So Holly used to just be Holly. And then over time, some different people had a hand in creating some of the base strategies. And we had segmented it out to Holly Grail, which was the originals, and then Holly 2.0, which was some new strategies that had come on, and then Holly Neo, which were not just some new strategies that come on, but they had some specific things that could not be optimized or adjusted or couldn't be adjusted below certain thresholds. So, for example, Holly Neo has settings inside it that says the relative volume cannot drop below a certain amount, and the gap movements on those cannot drop below a certain amount as well. The Holly 2.0 ended up, it became very confusing for users. So we just kind of crushed the whole thing into one Holly and that's it. But we left it that the Holly Neo cannot be adjusted in certain ways. And those alerts, there's 4 Holly Neo strategies. They just always are enabled every single day. They make alerts every single day, no matter what. Holly Grail and Holly 2.0 became one thing. That's it. There's no anything else because they all function the same way anyways, as far as the optimizing and back testing goes. And so to confuse people less, it just became one Holly in that sense. And that was it. But because the Neo has some slight differences in that back testing, those Neo strategies come to the table every day, ready to make alerts if anything is meeting the criteria of those 4 specific scans. And you can see that all listed there in a general description of what those are doing. There are some that, I'll be honest, off the top of my head, there's a strategy in there called the Vault. That thing alerted, it was crazy. It was every day it came and worked throughout like all of 2018 and the beginning of 2019. Sometime through 2019, this is before I actually worked for Trade Ideas, which is Trade Ideas subscribers. Sometime in 2019, it just stopped alerting. Development side folks have gone in there. Everything's in working order for it. It just never seems to backtest and optimize the way it did at the beginning. It had a pretty great run for about 7-8 months. The strategy just kind of stopped working. The alerts weren't great out of it. And eventually the backtesting and optimizing it just never panned out anymore. It still gets backtested and optimized, but for whatever reason, just doesn't cut the mustard, so to speak, anymore. It is what it is, kind of thing. And, that leads me into that. These all started as base strategies. And so the base strategy of them technically no longer exists, right? Through all the optimization processes and things like that. It also leads me into those that are into backtesting and optimization. Be careful of what we call curve fitting, right? Or over optimizing, where you take a strategy or you take a scan and you just backtest and optimize it till the thing just looks absolutely amazing in the backtester, adding, a dozen or more filters and then, nitpicking the values, the minimum and maximum values and all those filters. And then all of a sudden you go to backtest it moving forward, without any more optimizations. And over the days and weeks that come, it no longer backtests well. That's a fine line between optimizing and over optimizing, or what would be called curve fitting. On a normal day, approximately how many new Holly trades come through each hour? I won't say each hour, but each day I would say 3 to 10 on average for the day. 3 to 10 Holly alerts per day. That's what I would say. I've seen... Let's see. So I was an early adopter of Holly. Holly came out in January of 2016. I started paying attention and hanging in the traders room in April of 2017 and paying attention to Holly and the webinars and all those things like that were going on back then. I subscribed to Trade Ideas in July of 2017 after, getting myself a little education on all this. There wasn't that many Holly subscribers to that point still, maybe a few hundred, give or take. And I've seen in that time Holly not make any trades 3 times ever. One time was Brexit. Holly made no alerts on Brexit. There's 2 other random times. You would have thought during COVID there was a time that when the markets were going nuts that Holly made no alerts. But Holly, I think, made alerts all through COVID. When I say all through COVID, I mean like, February and March when the craziness of COVID on the markets were going on. I think there's like 2 other random times for some reason Holly made no alerts. What I will say is that you will see when the market gaps up percentage-wise, up or down a good amount, that's when you'll see less Holly alerts. Holly doesn't do well on the gaps, I'll say. I shouldn't say Holly doesn't do well, but a lot of the Holly strategies have a S&P component in them. Some have a NASDAQ component in them. What do we mean by that, by component? So, Holly at its core is an alert window, just becomes very sophisticated. But, this is Holly at its core, right? We start with an alert window and then we do some stuff with it here like anybody else would. So when I say S&P component, sorry, I'm trying to find, okay, yeah. Actually, it'd be better if I do it this way. I'm trying to find the best way so I can show all these things here. So we go change and there we go. So you can see here in the, if I search change, I scroll down a bit, I get this change NASDAQ, S&P, and Dow on some different time frames, including the day. There are not all the alerts have some components of this, these filters in there. And so if, the overall market is making any huge moves, you may not see a Holly alert during that period. There's also, I believe, some volatility filtering that goes on with some of the Holly alerts to find more or less volatile stocks, depending on what the specific scan is. And again, there was a base set of filters that were put in to each of these strategies, and then they've been adjusted and tweaked over time quite a bit. So again, excellent session. I feel like here, folks, I really, really like when we have sessions like this versus nobody's asking questions and I'm just going over charts and stuff like that. I don't feel like that benefits anybody very much. Switching gears, what are differences between traditional trade ideas charts and the browser chart style? So the what I would call the legacy charts, they have a different mark. So let me put this, get rid of the browser interface on the intraday chart, but I'll leave the browser interface on the daily chart. So you've got this pencil up here and you can draw a horizontal line, trend line, make some annotations or put some arrows on the chart. You can't do that with the browser charts. If we right click and go to markup here, you have those items there on markup as well on the legacy charts. If you're marking up charts on the browser charts, you can use this tool over here for those different markups, and there's some markups that don't exist within the legacy charts. But now this is something that will happen eventually. I cannot give you a timetable for when it will, but if I draw, let me get off the browser chart here. If I draw a line here, if I draw a horizontal line here on this chart, now watch, it's going to transpose over to this daily chart here. Some point here, I promise. There we go, bang. But if I do that in the browser charts, it does not happen actually. So if I go ahead and use the markup feature here and I draw a line, okay, go ahead and be a pain in my neck. There we go. This line is not going to transpose over here. It's just going to be on this chart like that. You can, however, make some adjustments on the line, the color, thickness. And of course, we can always delete it. So that's, I'd say one of the main differences. If you're on our beta version, you're on the web charts, the browser chart, you can click and grab the chart and change some of the, the look and the axes of it, things of that nature, and drag back this way. So that's possible to do that. That's not in the legacy charts. What else is there? I think that's the main things here. If you look at the toolbar up here of the charts, you'll see the toolbar in the legacy charts is slightly different than this. If you want to draw a VWAP, you click on the anchor and then you draw the AVWAP like that on this. Here, you'd actually find it under the pencil, that AVWAP. It draws it on there for you like that. The look of Holly on the charts is different. So like let's right click properties, show AI trades, right click properties, show AI trades. So if let's adjust this to intraday as well. Let's put on a 5-minute chart. And I go ahead and click on LITM. You're going to see here on the legacy charts is a little better color gradient here and how the stop loss is referenced and things like that. You don't have that on the browser charts yet. That's, things that we're trying to migrate over there still a little slower than we'd like, but it is, coming forth among several other features like that as well. So those are the big highlights here. I'm actually in the process of updating our user guide to reflect this. A little bit more of a task than I thought it was going to be. There's a few things to add to the user's guide and so on and so forth, but I'm hoping maybe sometime by the second week of January, I can release all that at once. And when I say I really mean it's a team effort. I'm going through and creating some of the content to replace old content, and then there's people behind the scenes that actually get into the web pages and do all that. They do the real hard work. I was reading through the running up now where my website. Do not quite understand what exactly that triggers the alert. So it's really looking for stocks, moving quickly or quicker than a baseline, essentially. I'm trying to think what the baseline is on that. Bear with me a second, see if I can find some other documentation or not. Now, I don't know the baseline on that. Maybe a 10-day baseline for what's in the quote expected move of the stock, because most of our intraday stuff is based on 10 days, like our 1-minute volume, our 5-minute volume, so on and so forth. That's based on 10 days. Relative volume is based on 30 days. But it's essentially, it's looking for moves that are not normal. Yeah, and going over you can see this too. Let me find the help page and bring that over, because I think there's a 1-minute component. Bear with me for the day. Oh, sorry, hold on. Let's see, 1 minute. So I'm playing with something here on a setting. Bring over an alert window. So we're running up. Now let's add that. And so you can set a dollar baseline on this, essentially, minimum amount. And I just want to do $5. Let's do 3, and let's do 1 million. Just so we're not seeing a ridiculous amount of alerts here. And so, like, if we look here, 12:53, this alert came through, and we can see, right here, this big move happened. And that's what it's looking for, something like that right there, when I don't have any kind of filterization going on there. All right, yeah, I got I know you have this page too, you looked at it, but so just keep in mind this part here. I was pretty sure it was a 1 minute. Yeah, I just confirmed that. So watch 1-minute candles. If you watch a 1-minute candlestick chart, that's where you're going to see that play out like that. Curious. I just randomly made this window here and wonder how much stuff alerted through the day. Let's look at some PDY. And so 10, 12. Scroll back a little bit. So yeah, here's that where that would happen. You get this move right here, so it started running up right there, and it's a kind of alert you can use if you're trying to find things that are moving, but they're not at their high of the day anymore. They've pulled back maybe, and now they're having a quick move up. I don't want to say necessarily a violent move up, but certainly a quick move up. No, there's no quantity on that print, no quantity. So you could get, in theory, if you had no volume metrics on that alert window whatsoever, if something in one share moved from, I don't know, $80 to $90, for example, in 1 minute, during a 1 minute time frame, you'd see that come through as an alert if there's no other filters to block it from happening. Yes, charts are, I mean, in theory, the charts are updating every, I believe, quarter second is what they're really doing. But if you watch time and sales and you watch our charts, they're gonna match. You're not gonna see it any difference. You shouldn't be seeing any difference, anyways. And again, keep the question. I'll hang around. Normally I shut this down at normally I shut down at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern. If you guys have questions for me, you folks have questions for me, I'll stick around for a few extra minutes, right? So, if you've got questions, anybody has any questions in here whatsoever, I don't know how true these numbers ever are, but I see 61 people are in here. If you have questions, don't be shy. Get them in, please. Right? I'll stick around if there are questions coming in. If there's not, I have many emails and other tasks to get to, but I'm happy to do that stuff later. I'd rather support people live here right now, getting their questions answered. So Oliver, is that a default layout? No, this is my own layout that I created over many, many years. I don't even use half the stuff on this layout, to be honest. Like this is a scan here that I used in the after hours to find swing trading ideas. I just put it there to take up space during the day. So when I'm doing streaming, that's not a blank page. I hardly ever look at this breakout race, to be honest. I just put it there it's a scan that Barry created, a breakout scan. It's actually a very good scan. I just, basically most of the things that'll alert on my other scan that I'd use anyways, but I needed something to take up space. I don't want to have, nobody wants to look at someone streaming with their, the desktop background showing. That doesn't really bode well for anybody. This is like my main day trading scan. These two here, obviously I use a single stock window. You can see I don't use a bunch of charts. That's it for my charts. This is normally a 5-minute chart here. And I do have a 3-minute chart back here. I don't really use it. I don't know. It's there. It's there because. Any way to get a copy of this? Yes, but here's the thing. This my liked is set up to my liked symbols. You're not going to get any benefit out of that. I have a number of windows on another screen. So, it is what it is. You may or may not like any of those windows, but you can get rid of them yourself. There's price alerts windows, some compare count windows and all that. But I'll share it with you. I have a shared version. You're welcome to it. And you can take any of the individual scans that you like. Just bear with me. I got to search in my cloud for this. Of course. Happy to share those. There you go. One last question. When you're looking for day trades, what degree of relative volume? I don't care what the relative volume is. I've never cared what. I shouldn't say I've never cared, but I don't particularly care what the relative volume is. I need the stock to be liquid. I know liquid becomes kind of subjective, but if something's traded 600,000 shares by like I don't know, but for example here, FCEL, I mean 600,000 shares traded by 1 o'clock Eastern. I'm not interested in that stock whatsoever. I'd want to see them, if I'm day trading, I need to see it 1 million or so by now. But just for context of the relative volume filter, and this may help you in decision making on how to use it. And of course, that could always adjust over time. It's using a 30-day look back, and it's a reactive filter in the sense of this. This was actually just at 0.47. It just moved up to 0.48 because there seems to have been maybe a slight tick in volume in the last minute or so here. So if this thing had massive volume pour into it, you'll see relative volume creep up. Now you see it just dropped back to 0.47 again. So it's reactionary based on what's going on now. And what it's saying is at the current pace, if nothing changes, this is where we're headed. And of course, if anything changes, we're going to update it like that essentially. And that's what relative volume is doing like that. Sergio, speaking of charts and alerts, why do the blue arrows sometimes show on charts to specific on what candle triggered? Sometimes it does not. Yeah, I think it's two things on this. One is sometimes if you have, let's say you've got a price alert that went off, and then it's also on a scan, and then maybe Holly alerted. Sometimes the system isn't able to decipher between the three of those on where to stick the blue arrow because they could all have blue arrows. So I think it has to do with them kind of internally fighting like that, Sergio. I do believe that is the cause, let's call it, or the sourcing of that. So, for example, KITT. See, we got the blue arrow going on there. I don't use alert windows, so I don't have any price alerts set up for today. Not really doing much on the trading front as we wind out 2024 at this point. So I don't have another one. Just see if these all have blue arrows on them. Yeah, blue arrow. Blue arrow, blue arrow, blue arrow. I think LITM had one too. Yeah, so we could see it like that. So, but that's what I think it has to do with there, Sergio, is that if the alert is coming from multiple places, the system kind of fights with itself on which blue arrow to be using. And again, so I will make a last call for questions. But if questions keep coming in, I'm going to stick around, right? So, folks, this is really your opportunity. I know everybody wants a one-on-one and things like that, but it's just not. It's not possible for us to do it. That's all there is to it. We're not some big multi-billion-dollar corporation with tens of thousands of employees like a Microsoft or something like that. And even they don't do one-on-ones for any of their crap, right? So this is the way we can get to the masses, is by doing this every single day. I'll be honest, in the past, I ran longer Q&As and at different times. People didn't show up to them. So it wasn't a good use of my time anymore, and I'd stopped doing it. Perhaps in the future, if more people were showing up to these, requesting them, maybe we would do some more and at some different times. But for now, this is where we're doing it and the time that we're doing it. So I can't stress enough that if you're really serious about trading and you're trying to leverage this software in obviously a profitable way, which is what we need and want you to do, this is the place to be doing it, right? This is the place to be doing it. And everybody's got an agenda. I've got an agenda. My agenda is get as many people subscribe and trade ideas as possible. But my agenda only works well if you folks are making money with the software. You're not making money with the software, you're not going to say subscribed, and there's no benefit to us whatsoever at that point. You need to make money. Trading's hard. That's all there is to it. There's no silver bullet on this. There's no secret There's no special bot to plug in and just make money. I know that's what everybody wishes and wants. It's what I wish and want. While we definitely have users that have back tested and optimized systems that they are automated. I can also tell you that all those people, they never just press play and walk away from their computer and let the system go. They're monitoring it throughout most of the day, if not all the day, because that's what's real in the world. And I will tell you this, I have for years and years and years and years tried to come up with my own automated system through backtesting and optimization. They just never seem to last. You know, they look good for a week, 2, 3, 4 weeks, and then, you know, the strategy just doesn't work like it did towards the beginning. That's the challenge of this. In my opinion, what is the best channel for a scalper? I'd probably say the Explosive Winners channel and the Momentum channels. New doc channel bar. Now I'm showing it as a doc channel bar, but these are also available in the non-doc. Excuse me, choking on myself. The non-doc channel bar. So I'd look here at the Explosive Winners channel, and if you click on Show More, and there's Show More on the other channel bar as well. I would look in the Momentum channel. I thought there was a Momentum channel in this. Apparently there is not. Ain't that something? Explosive Winners. I stand corrected. Well, actually, I'm sitting, but I sit corrected. Let me bring up the regular channel bar too. So, nope, that's 2 docked ones, Chris. Channel bar. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and span this out like this. And if I click on Show More, you see all these other channels here. And Momentum, where are you? Momentum. There it is. Momentum channel. I'd say take a look at that. I mean, you could look at the penny stocks. I don't know for scalping how well that may or may not work, but give it a shot. Take a look at it. Nothing to lose, right? So those would be the spots that I'd be pointing you to. Yeah, and then in case anybody's sitting to themselves and saying, "Oh, well, why is the doc channel bar different than the regular channel bar?" Formatting, and also we wanted to keep the doc channel bar a little. Again, it goes back to a theme that I shared at the beginning that a lot of people that come here, they have no intention of really learning the software. They just want to click and have ideas. They don't want to configure anything. They don't want to have to search through. They don't want to learn very much, if anything at all. And so the doc channel bar, few easier to pull up layouts essentially, and that's it. We leave it like that, and we keep the bulk and all that in the traditional channel bar. And we didn't always have a doc channel bar. Doc channel bar came into existence in mid 2022. Don't quote me on that, but sometime around that time. So, these are all with different themes in there for the most part. Again, if anybody has questions on these, fire away. I don't know every scan that's in every one of these here. Each one of these windows probably has 2, 3, 4 scans in it. You're equaling probably 100 plus scans in all of these. Is the blue guy running? Yeah, it's supposed to be running, like, I guess, Momentum. Running with Momentum. I'm not, sure the thumbnail behind that. Oh, it's the blue guy running. I'm sorry, Midway. You were stating that, not asking. Sorry, I apologize. Yeah, blue guy running there in the Momentum one. And then there's pre-market channel, post-market channels there for you. We call it after hours on the post-market. Swing Picks is here. It's also in the doc channel bar, I believe. Yeah, Swing Picks is there. Those of you probably, I don't know if there's anybody left here that remembers Stephanie. She used to work in support with me. Somewhat of a genius, to say the least. She still works for the company, but she works more behind the scenes on some different things. Her and I made a big tweak to the Swing Picks here a couple of weeks ago. It was really more her than me than anything else, but I've added a video to that. So I do You'll find a quick market recap video each week here when this comes out. And, I go over each of the stocks that's in here in case you're wondering. And again, nothing is a hard buy now and sell now or anything like that. But, just some food for thought in there about the overall market and things like that. The things that are coming through the Swing Picks channel. Yeah. Let me close all that up. Move that back over here. So, all right, again, I'm going to make a last call on questions here. And if the questions come, I'll stick around. I'll keep answering them. If not, I'm going to retire this live stream for the day. But again, I really encourage anybody with questions, please get those in. Of course, myself or someone will be back here Monday. We've had some staff shakeups here over the last month plus. And so I used to always do Mondays. I probably still do Mondays sometimes, but not always. Andy used to always do Fridays. Steve used to always do Thursdays. Like I said, we've had some shakeups here in the past couple of months. So never know exactly what the schedule will be, but myself, Andy, or Steve we're here every day, every market day. It's noon, Henry, noon Eastern every day, every market day, noon Eastern. Obviously, we're not doing this on the weekends. We're not doing it on market holidays. But outside of that, noon Eastern, myself, Andy, or Steve are always here. For what it's worth, Andy and Steve are where I learned a lot from, and when I say a lot, I truly do mean a lot. So, getting different voices, different days, trying to make it as many days as possible, I think is really important to hear different folks talk about the market and the software differently, because everybody has their own nuances with the software, things that I may discuss or use the software for. You don't find valuable, but you may find that with Andy or Steve, right? So, always keep those things in mind. You're welcome, Sergio. You have a wonderful weekend as well. Of course, Pierre, happy to share. It's what I'm here for. Okay. You watched them for a long time. Yeah. I mean, you're not going to find people better in the business than them. Same thing with Barry. If you're not, folks, anybody that's here and you haven't been in our trading room, you are doing yourself the greatest disservice possible by not being in that trading room with Barry during the day. I'm not saying you need to be in there all day, every day, listening to everything, but I would certainly recommend spending time in there, especially if you were like me, and I struggled for a long time just trying to figure out what to trade, right? Like there's so many data points and so many scanning abilities, so many customizations. There's it's an infinite combination of scans that can be made, right? And getting in that room and listening to Barry talk about how he scans, what he scans, why he scans, the way he does that helped. I don't necessarily do everything that Barry does, but it helped me to realize, all right, well, if I'm looking for things, this is how I can look for those things, just based on having been in there. So like I said, get in there, definitely be in there. Let me share a link to that, of course. I'm sitting here talking about it. How the heck do you get in there, right? And again, Pierre, I'm really happy to share, and, I'm very, I like to be very open to the fact that I'm not some guru trader making all this money and buying houses and flying around the world. I was a terrible trader for years, terrible at trading for years. My biggest enemy in trading is not having a plan. And then once I started to formulate a plan, it was, then how can I make the plan work? Not everything works, right? That very, very difficult stuff for my own mental hurdles to have gotten through. And then once, I started taking it more seriously and just not randomly throwing things at the wall for trades, I stopped losing a lot. And I went to losing a little. Then I went to break even. And then I went to eking out wins. And now, a little more than eking out wins. But it's not like I'm not making $10,000 a month trading or anything like that. I want to be realistic with people and what this entails. So, all right. Very, very last call for questions. If I see no questions coming in the next few seconds, I'm going to shut it down for the day. Again, if you are not in the trading room with Barry, you are doing yourself a disservice. I just shared the link. Please, please, please join Barry in that trading room. You will not regret it. I promise. I promise you will not regret being in that room. Midway, my pleasure. Thank you. Midway, I can't stress this enough. And for everybody that commented here, Sergio and anybody else, I really appreciate the questions that come in here. It makes my day a lot better, to be honest. And a lot of times questions don't come in here on these live streams. I'm just sitting here randomly talking charts. And it's like, I don't mind talking charts. I don't mind talking markets. I have a passion for these things, but I don't feel like it gets people value in the software. So I thank you, Midway, for all the back and forth today. I really appreciate that. Pierre, live news, we just got the one news tab here on the single stock. It's a Google API. So as fast as things kind of update into Google and move over here, that's it. We don't have a breaking news, unfortunately. But what I would suggest to you is this, because you're never going to see the news before the move. The news and the move are at the same time. So look for the move, right? And ways that we can look for the move, I would say to you, running up, family of alerts here, running up now. Those alerts are very key. Filters. The change in 1 minute filter here, looking for spikes on a percent or dollar basis, whatever you prefer to work with. And also volume. Got this, let me scroll down a little bit, find it. This 1 minute volume filter on a percent. It's taking a 10-day average of volume on a rolling 1 minute basis. Percentage means that 100 is normal, 200 is 2 times, 300 is 3 times, 400 is 4 times, so on and so forth. So those are the kind of things that I would be using, because news, you're never going to see the news hit the wire and then like a move happen 2 or 3 minutes later. There's algorithms out there that are searching for news that, hedge funds and stuff have that, it's technology we just don't have at the retail level right now. And they're going to be on that news before we even have a chance to read the headline. Before we can even read the headline, they're on it. So the idea is find the move. And then if there's a news catalyst, we can then look in something like the single stock window. Is the news catalyst going to be a kind of a pump and dump news catalyst, or is a news catalyst that may be sustained through the rest of the day? And is there likely to be another setup that happens when, after that new initial news move is made? And those are the things as retail traders that we would be really looking for and realistically trying to be leveraging ourselves. So again, going over those items here in alert window, that 1 minute volume, 5 minute volume, you might consider that too, to see if the news continues to sustain volume over that rolling period. And we don't have to just scan on these. We can also look at those as data points. So like in my details tab here, you'll see that I have 1 minute volume and 5 minute volume here as just looking at what they're doing here. That's all I'm doing. I'm looking at what they're doing. And then, sorry, let me bring back that configure window here again. I don't have those kind of change ones in my single stock window, but again, those change ones here on those short terms and on the alerts, that running up family, I think that's one you're definitely going to want to consider for any kind of things that might have some breaking news attached to them, and using a combination of the alert and filters like that. That's what I'd be pointing you towards. In fact, let's do this real fast. Let's go with running up now. Let's add this alert. I'm going to share a scan that. I don't know what it's going to, whether it'll have news based on it. But here's a template of something I might consider, and then I tweak it over time as I look at maybe news stories that the stocks may have on them. Running up now, let's go with, we'll put a $1 baseline on this. We're not going to put a relative volume filter in here, because let's just say a stock, it wasn't doing much for the day and it has some kind of news that comes out midday, right? And it didn't have any relative volume to it much before that. We don't want the relative volume filter to block it, right? But let's do this here. Let's go with volume on the 1 minute time frame. Let me find, there we go. Let's add that filter. Let's throw a 500 in here. All right. Maybe let's throw a 300 minimum on the day. We'll change. on the 1 minute time frame here. Let's add that filter. Let's maybe see 0.75%. Let's just check out what this does. Put news with a question mark. So no, I don't think there's any news in this at all, but so it had a price target raise today, right? So there we go. So it did have some news on it today. H.C. Wainwright raised up that price target. So analyst upgrade on that, right? And let's run back the history on this today and just look at some of the stocks that came through it. Well, a lot of stocks came through, so I'd like to narrow this more. I'm trying to think, how can we narrow it more? Let's see. What else can we do with this here? Sorry, I'm just kind of trying to think over in my head what else we could add to something like this to try to filter out some of the noise. I don't know if there's much else to filter out noise with on this, to be honest. Yeah. When you're trying to find that spike, a lot of stocks can spike with a head fake. You throw a 1 minute RSI, throw a 65 on there. Let's see what that does. Interesting. The other thing too is when you've got $1 stocks, just a small few pennies will meet some of that criteria. Just curious how this affected it by putting that in there, that RSI filter. Yeah, it tightened it up a little bit though. Not quite as many alerts as there had been. Interesting. Large call options. So it also depends on what you consider news too, right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'll put this back on real time, and I'm going to go ahead and share that. Use as a template, as a launching point, right? And take it and make it your own. So, alrighty, folks, there you go with that. So, all right. I guess that's going to do it for me. Unless there's any other questions to come in, folks. Don't be shy. If there's a question, I will answer it. Otherwise, I will wrap up for the day here. Excuse me. All righty. So I guess that'll do it for the day. Again, I thank you all very kindly for joining me here. And we will see you. I guess we'll see you Monday. I'm not sure if you'll see me or Steve or Andy, but you'll see somebody here at noon Eastern next Monday. Henry, you're very welcome. Thank you. And you all have a great weekend, folks. Take care. Bye-bye.